Hello and welcome to episode 80 of Bits and Pieces, the world's friendliest cricket podcast. I'm Mohan, your host, and I'm dialing in from Melbourne. This is episode 80, folks. Yeah, 80. Did you know that 80 is the upper limit for cardinals to vote in elections for the Pope? Fun fact. So given that we are all 80 today, we've reached our upper limit and can't vote for the Pope today. I mean, Ollie Pope has no hope of getting any votes from us today. While Ollie Pope has no hope, the other Ollie Dope is on a continuous slippery slope and keeps giving us less and less rope to cope with this tiring we win even when we lose trope, giving us even more scope to put baseball under the microscope. Guys, sorry, I could not fit antelope, telescope, or electron microscope, another Pope
Periscope
into that sentence. Or
how did you leave out periscope?
And I certainly don't want us to elope because we have a podcast to do. Ollie Robinson is a gift that keeps giving. He seems to be in a two-person race with Johnny Bairstow to remain in the news and remain relevant even when they are not. First, Ollie put out a media release this week saying he's fit and raring to go in the next Ashes test. I mean, okay, but care factor? Ollie Robinson saying he's fit and ready to go in the next test, like Srisan saying he's ready to throw in the towel again. Ollie Robinson saying he's fit and ready to go in the next test is like Lalit Modi saying he's fit and ready to be in charge of the IPL again. Ollie Robinson saying he's fit and ready to go in the next test is like Ajit Agarkar saying he's ready to become the India chief. Oh, hang on, that's happened already. And then after that, Ollie Robinson put out another article saying mates of his who hate cricket are writing in to him to say how much they are suddenly enjoying cricket because of the way England are playing even when they lose. Wait, who are these mates? Who are these people? How? So much to talk about in episode.
They're basically saying if he's playing cricket, then he's staying away from us. So good. Yeah, keep it. This is excellent. Well-known strategy.
Wisdom is taking one for the entire world.
Now, 80 is often associated with the Pareto principle, otherwise known as the 80-20 rule, which roughly states that for most events, roughly 80% of the effects and outcomes come from 20% of the causes and resources. Like in cricket, where 80% of the noise in the stadium might be made by 20% of the people, or 80% of the runs are scored by 20% of the batters, or 80% of the contributions to the team come from 20% of the players. Of course, this is easily extended to cricket finances too, where 80% of the money goes to, well, 20% of the countries. In some depressing news that was out this week, we heard that BCCI will pocket nearly 40% of ICC's commercial revenues annually for the next 3 or 4 years.
Why so low? Oh, that's why it's depressing. Okay.
That's why depressing. Well, if that's not depressing, get this. No other full ICC member will receive even double-digit share of ICC's revenues, where BCCI pockets 40%. I'm sure we'll talk about that in this episode too. And West Indies cricket, where is it going? Or has it already gone? After being booted out of the World Cup 2023 qualifiers, they proceeded to produce a slow turner with puff of dust at Dominica in the test against India, in which India batted in a manner that may have made the recent Ahmedabad test against Australia seem like a thrilling IPL game. Wait, is there anything like a thrilling IPL game? Never mind. Well, the least the West Indians could do was to produce a lively pitch for their style of bowling. They couldn't even do that. After the disappointment of the previous West Indies India Dominica test 12 years ago, we have this disappointment of the current Dominica test ending in 3 days. So much to talk about, and what a bright note to start this episode on, hey?
Hey,
what an amazing panel to talk
but
about.
We have to also tell our listeners that we are actually recording this episode on your 80th birthday. So happy birthday to you. That's why
shots fired.
Across continent, shot fired. So who do we have on this panel? We just had Tony, and don't worry, you'll get a roast or two as well. Don't worry about that. First up, we have this guy who's made podcast intros an art form. And boy, has he put pressure on the rest of us in the Bits and Pieces host seat. His love for Shastri and Kohli is as well renowned as his dislike for the nice guys from New Zealand. His love for Sanju Samson and other assorted his love for Sanju Samson and other assorted mediocre cricketers from God's own country of Kerala are well known. He says that his favorite cricketer is Virat Kohli, but with Dhoni's luck. Clearly a CSK hater too. His favorite game is one from, surprise, surprise, Kochi. It was a game between South Africa and India in March 2000 in Kochi, which he attended at Stadium with full family. His family was captured cheering on TV, which of course was a mixed blessing. While Tony's cousins from all over the world in the Middle East, stereotype alert, went, yay, his teacher went, why, the next day. Tony's dad came to the rescue and promptly wrote to the teacher saying, we all went to see the cricket match so that we can prepare Tony to become a future master podcaster.
Yeah.
True
To our
story.
misfortune, Tony was allowed to continue attending school again. His favorite umpire is Billy Bowden. Tony says he tried to make umpiring entertaining at least. And a cricketer who makes him laugh is Shardul Thakur. At this point, being a self-confessed #1 fan of said cricketer, I have to say,
The BEDX of
hey,
all jokes. Sorry.
yeah. And I have to say this, Tony. Hey, Tony, bat ka grip nikal ke. Welcome to the episode, Tony.
Thank you. Thank you. Great to be here.
Next up, we have a lawyer. Clearly, Bits and Pieces needs at least one of these type of folk. We could get into serious trouble for the irreverent jibes that we pass on, especially towards the BCCI. And it's only a matter of time before the lawyers get involved. Thank you, Vaishnavi, for contributing already on that front. But that's not the only reason why Vaishnavi is on this podcast group. Her knowledge of the game is as amazing and deep as a fielder's attempt to catch a cricket ball and a flying pigeon on the field at the same time, showcasing her ability to anticipate and react to unexpected situations and come up with examples at the drop of a hat while aiming for the skies. So much for mixed metaphors. But nothing mixed up about Vaishnavi. She's clear in her views and inputs. I asked her for her single most cricket game ever. She gave me 3. So she says, Taunton 99 World Cup, India versus Sri Lanka, that 10 for 74 at the Kotla, and that 233 in Adelaide in 2003-04. Well, the 10 for 74 was Kumble, of course. The other 2 involve lovely innings from Dravid. So one would imagine that Dravid is her favorite cricketer. So I asked her who her favorite cricketer was, and she says she has no favorite cricketers at all.
What? Wait?
Except that she's become a recent fan of Anna Harris.
That was umpire.
Hey, wait, when did you break up with R. Ashwin?
Oh, wait, what?
Friendship I did with R. Ashwin. Anna Harris
No,
is the new friend.
I think I entirely messed up that answer. Yes, Ashwin is my
Okay,
favorite
no worries.
cricketer.
Puff of dust.
Oh, well, so R. Ashwin is her favorite cricketer. That's what I thought she would say. But she left that question blank. In terms of an
Well
answer.
left.
Well left. Her knowledge and love of the cricket game and the women's game especially is amazing too. We will hear more from her on that in the podcast. Her favorite test is Gabba, of course. She finds Steve Smith's antics funny and endearing and wishes that she was either Ash Gardner or say Sophie Ecclestone. Welcome to the pod, Vaishnavi.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. Nice to be here.
We are a worldwide cricket podcast, guys. While Tony is from the country of Kerala and Vaishnavi is from India, our next podcast is from a country that recently acquired a new king. No, not King Kohli, but King Charles. We have Bisi from somewhere in London. He's a program manager for a supermarket chain, but his claim to fame is that he never shops at any of the stores that he manages. He knows way too much about that. His best match ever was that India versus Australia game in Hyderabad, where Sachin scored 175 in a losing cause. Now, why is it that most people's favorite games are those in which Sachin scored massive number of runs in a losing cause? Food for thought. Bisi's favorite umpire is, wait for this, A.V. Jayaprakash. That's a massive surprise.
For enabling the 10 for 74, I'm sure.
Indeed, exactly.
I was going to say there is a link between Vaishnavi's choice and Bisi's umpire. What's not surprising is that he cracks up every time he sees Johnny Bairstow. Why? Even Johnny Bairstow cracks up every time he sees Johnny Bairstow. There's something about poor Johnny and that crease scratching that made him a bit more lol-worthy, that's all. Bisi's favorite cricketer is Sunil Narayan. Wow, a West Indian. Welcome to the podcast, Bisi.
Thank you so much. Lovely to be here.
And finally, we have our perfectly precautious, peripatetic, Portuguese, plucky panda parota, Murali Satagopan from Portugal. Bisi and Murali are dialing in at 6:15 local times with plenty of coffee. But one never knows where Murali is at any point in time. Like many of the Modis we know, Narendra, Nirav, Lalit, our Murali is always in a different locale almost every week. However, unlike said Modis, I better not complete that sentence.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we might need our lawyer pronto.
Yeah. It's a
To
good
bail us out
time to
mid-episode.
ask Vaishnavi if this is grounds for Mohan to be disqualified as an MP from the room. Yeah.
Murali is head of business at a company called PandaDoc. His favorite game is also, surprise, surprise, that Gabba test. Although Sachin's 175 heartbreak is a close second, along with Stokes' Headingley test. So lots of people going for Sachin's 175 heartbreak. His favorite umpire is also Billy Bowden for the theatrics, and then he says Bucknell. Bucknell? Really? Murali finds
Bucknell
his
is
son
here.
and his antics incredibly laugh-worthy, and he wishes he was Jack Cullis. Cullis was too exceptionally talented, he says, for the modern game. I completely agree with that. Totally underrated all-rounder. So there you have it, a full set of panelists for today's Bits and Pieces episode 80.
Hank,
So
you
let's
made
get
us
stuck into it.
fill out one full 10 standard autograph book, slam book, whatever that is.
And
How
your
you
Well, I
question
could
was,
fill this out.
who is the cricketer you would like to be? It wasn't who is your favorite cricketer.
That's right.
Or you would like to be.
Deep
Yeah,
question.
Yeah.
There's a difference. I would like to be. Sunil Narayan is not my favorite cricketer. I would like to be him.
Like to be Sunil. There you go. There
Yeah.
you go. There you go. All right, let's get stuck into it. There's so many things to talk about. India and the West Indies, the amazing debut by Jaiswal, Ashwin's 12-4 or something, whatever he got, Ashes preview. Tony wants to rant about England and the Ashes, Bangladesh versus India, Tamim, any number of things. So let's start with Dominica, shall we?
Yeah.
Who wants to start
Okay.
on Dominica? Bisi has put his hand up already, so go for it.
It looked like nobody wanted to start there, to be honest. Bisi, go for it.
I think last week also when West Indies tour of India came up, I was there I was there as a part of the recording, and everyone's like, "Yeah, thoughts on the West Indian?" And like, no thoughts. Now that the game is also over, everything is the same reaction. What no thoughts? It's like Rohit
I
Sharma
think we have
coming
put
and
more
saying,
thoughts. I think we have put more thoughts as a collective into the West Indies series than West Indies themselves.
Now, not only thoughts, but also prayers for the West Indies team, because that was painful to watch, man. I started watching the second innings yesterday. After the first 2 wickets fell, I was like, please. And then 4 wickets fell. I'm like, I gave up. I went to sleep because this is like, it just feels wrong, no? It just looks like, I don't know, someone's torturing a poor kitten or something like that. Like, horrible to watch. It's, anyway.
I think it's exemplified. The pain is exemplified by the fact that Rohit Sharma was waiting for somebody to score his debut runs to declare.
Yeah.
And that he has the gall to go ahead and even declare that in his post-match conference. He just has to go and confirm it also. It's like, yeah, Ishan Kishan, please score. I have an innings to declare. We have a game to win. And that is how absurd it is.
I was just surprised about Ishan Kishan because I would have thought he would have had bare minimum sense that they're going to declare, let me score 1 run faster. 16 balls, I kept waiting for that guy to score that 1 run and then they declared. I was so heartbroken. And I also have never seen what I cannot define as anything else but a home test disadvantage. West Indies, who prepares pitch?
But
Probably
Murali,
the world's best.
You know this,
Yeah.
right? Our Ashwin actually had to pay a lot of excess baggage because he had brought that pitch along with him with the cricket kits and all of that, and like custom stopped him saying you pay extra, but he paid and like just rolled out that pitch and went for
Yeah.
12-4.
It was just
Yeah,
really
toss,
sad to
toss
watch.
advantage has no relation to home advantage.
Yeah, none. And I also felt like they picked a team, whoever was available or whoever did not go to their job that day. They said, you can please come and play for us. But I felt like their spinners, they hardly looked like anybody who could, do anything on that pitch. And Ashwin comes and says, oh, I have been sleeping during the day at home. Don't worry, I'm prepared for this entire thing for West Indies weather. Comes and just runs through the attack. It was quite painful, as Tony says, to watch.
His wife may well have said, for this you did all that. Huh?
Vaishnavi, did you watch?
I honestly, I haven't watched much of this. match.
Brilliant. Well done.
It was
Well
painful.
done.
I mean, I think I like Ashwin getting wickets more than the average person, but this was torture even for me. I've only, I think, watched a total of maybe 1 hour of this test with 0 balls of India's batting. That was torture.
Yeah.
Dominica
incidentally stands for total domination by India and West Indies falling like dominoes. So it was absolutely chaotic. But also, I think for West Indies, Rakeem Cornwall couldn't bowl for 2 sessions, 3 sessions, right? 2 sessions he was off, and then another session he had to do jail time and wait. And then, like, I think his first ball back, he got Kohli or something like that. So, but I mean, anyway, not like they would have pushed it any further, but their batting display was pretty horrible, except for newcomer, what is his name?
Atanase.
Atanase. Yeah.
He looks damn good.
What was painful for me to watch, I mean, I really enjoyed Yashasvi Jaiswal's batting. It was just quite amazing. His composure was for a debutant. It looked like he'd been on the park for ages already.
He's just 21.
Which he was
Imagine
also.
that.
He's just 21. New sticker.
He's 21. Seriously. Forget 90. He's 21.
Wasim Akram sticker should be put there. He's only at 21. But what was painful for me was Kohli. I mean, I think there is something going on there. Sorry, Tony, but watching him was quite painful. As I did watch a fair bit of that. I thought this was an opportunity, especially for him and Rahane, to do stuff. Rohit's place is secure. Not that Kohli's place is not secure. And Gill, should be given an extended run at 1 drop. So that really didn't matter. But Rahane, was pretty scratchy.
Yeah, I mean, all said and done, I think it was a tough pitch to bat on, right? Like Kohli literally celebrated the first boundary he hit. And I don't know.
I'm not saying it was easy, but if you look at the composure,
but I'm just saying, but if I think in the very first over, Rohit Sharma was adjudged not LBW, but got away because of an umpire's call. And Gill didn't last long. Rahane didn't last long. So I guess Kohli felt like he needed time in the middle, and it was horrible to watch. He was dropped twice before finally being dismissed. But I feel like it was one of those pitches where not too many people got in or got going. Right?
Tony in full apologist mode.
No, not at all. It was a really, really bad match to watch. It was like, why?
All around.
To me, it seemed like the Indian batting was like an ode to the number 3 that they dropped. And like we'll show you how Pujara used to bat. Like, don't forget him. All of us will just dig in and
tribute match for Pujara.
Proper tribute innings from all the guys who batted. Nobody got going. Everybody looked out of touch apart from Yashasvi. And it was just horrible to watch.
Murali, any views?
No, I barely watched, I think, parts. I switched it on when Yashasvi was, I think, on 96 because I really thought that guy was extremely talented. And then I watched most of the highlights in the evenings. One of the things I felt like was, I have not seen much of the times when people play those tour games, right? When India will play one board president's 11 of some England or somebody like that when they go and play in Australia. This felt like one of those games where everybody's like, you want to go, you have a good chance. You can go play some 100 balls and come. You can go next. If you want to go, we can go 100 balls. Rahan is like, I want to go, and he comes back in 3 or 4 balls, which is the crazy part. Like, this is a gifted opportunity. And even on the bowling front, I felt like the way they used their resources too was quite surprising, because I did not know if there was a lot for the Pacers to do on this pitch, but they gave significant amount of time for the Pacers to try things. There were no moments, there was no build-up. It wasn't like the Indians ever had periods of play where they felt like they were a little threatened. So, like Tony has said, it felt so tame to sit and watch this game. I watched the India-Bangladesh games in full, and I think that was properly, even though India won both, it looked genuinely competitive, at least during most parts of, most sessions there. But in this, I didn't feel that at all. It felt very sorry to watch this team. Actually, what I felt even worse was, it didn't even look like the West Indies were so keen to play. Like, if you didn't tell someone who the captain of the West Indies team was, everybody would guess it wrong. Like, they'd guess all 11 players before coming down to Brathwaite, because they're like, oh, probably he's the captain. There is no signs of intensity. There is no signs of overplaying against probably like the top 3 teams in the world, saying top 3, hopefully. But yeah, it's just quite... So those parts was quite painful is actually the right term. I couldn't sit through a lot of the test at all.
Yeah, and the worst thing is you didn't come away with anything, right? You basically dropped KS Bharat, who always feels like he's gone back home because he's forgotten something before he actually plays a shot, right? And you brought in Ishan Kishan, who plodded along for 20 balls, so much so that Rohit Sharma came onto the balcony, hugged Suresh Raina and looked at him and said, bro, what are you doing? Get one run at least. And spare a thought for Jaydev Unadkat, who is making his second debut after 10 years or whatever. And he didn't even get a bowl, man. Poor fellow has 0 wickets at the end of it.
Shardul didn't get a ball. That is what we are here
Shardul
to
did.
oppose.
He got a wicket as well.
Yeah.
Second innings? No.
First innings.
First innings.
Yeah.
Second innings, he didn't bowl at all.
Shardul gets a wicket means I will know that, please.
Shardul, more
Push
importantly,
notification.
didn't even get to bat, man. Like that's so bad.
That's cheating. Yeah, that is cheating.
The other highlight for me, I should mention, it's lovely to see Nitin Menon umpiring there, and I thought he did a pretty good job. Sorry, hang on, getting confused with the games here. Jump to the Ashes already, but scratch that out. The other thing that was really good to see, and I don't know if you watched the YouTube live stream of the West Indies cricket board. Wonderful commentary, really wonderful commentary. It was such a relief to get away from the usual people that are on the BCCI panel and listen to some decent commentary for a change.
Wait. I'm not detecting sarcasm.
He means
what
it.
is this big poker face? Wait. Say again.
So if you watch, I don't know what commentary you guys got on your feed. Who are the commentators?
Yeah,
you?
we had
We got
Karim.
Pragyan Ojha. We got Pragyan Ojha day 1 for 1 day, and he was axed the next day. He was that bad.
We got Sabah Karim and Courtney Walsh on Zoom for some reason with like cloudy spectacles and not knowing where he is without a proper mic. I've actually felt for the first time that we are actually doing a good service to the world of cricket with this podcast, because if that is the quality of broadcast, I'm sorry, please, like complete amateur hour was going on. But what commentary did you have?
So I watched the entire game on YouTube. West Indies Cricket Board has a live YouTube feed, and I watched the entire game. And from everything that I could see, there was no lag between what was happening and what was being said on our WhatsApp group. The commentators from the Indian perspective was Ronak Kapoor, and this guy is I'm really impressed with Ronak.
Very impressed, yes.
But from the West Indies side, we had Ian Bishop, Curtly Ambrose, Darren Ganga, and a whole bunch of other people. That was really, and it was so refreshing, so insightful, and so funny as well.
We had the same feed, Hank. What were you consuming? What were you consuming? I want to know.
No, I think
some runners high early in the morning in Australia.
So did you have Ronak Kapoor as well?
We did.
Okay.
On Geo, we did. No, Rana Kapoor is amazing because he keeps saying, Sir Curtly, can you please shed light on this? Sir Curtly, can you please say this? Sir Curtly, how many times have you bowled 40 overs in an innings?
But he's not
It
the
was
only one.
amazing.
I think even Bish was going Sir Curtly.
It's quite amazing, man. I love that bit. It's brilliant. We
But
found a new gem in the com box in Rana.
I
That
did
was
not
good.
even know who the commentary panel was, so I looked it up right now. It has Zahir Khan, Ishant Sharma, Wasim Jafar, Akash Chopra, Sabah
Wait, no.
Karima.
Oh, that would be
Hindi also.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, Kumble was also doing Hindi commentary. He's like,
Kumble did some English commentary also.
he did English because Pragyan Oja got booted. He was so bad, man. Pragyan Oja was like me being asked to do impromptu, what is that? Extempore debating and all on the stage in school. He was that bad. He
So-
kept saying basically as many times as he could to fill a sentence, right?
You have to ask him to do some basic commentary, so it's like
Basically, you need to put your basics in place. Basically, they need to put bat to time. All this
Busy in
basic-
7th standard discussing artificial intelligence, boon or bane. Having to speak at school
Basically,
assembly. Basically.
basically,
So I guess the upshot is that Ashana has got 2 days to prepare for his next video. That's about it.
yeah.
And I'm sure he has plenty to talk about because he got 12 wickets or something in this game. So there'll be a
But
big
we didn't
video
even
coming up.
discuss the best commentary in the match. Bisi, Ishan Kishan behind the stumps.
oh man, oh god, that I mean, so I think the major grouse we had with KSB is that he can't bat, and that he's absolutely useless as far as encouraging from behind the stumps. is concerned. Now, I don't know about Ishan Kishan's fortunes in front of the stumps. That we'll find out in due course of time. But my God, that guy has a mouth. And it runs non-stop. He's having jibes at his own teammates, be they be seniors, vice captains, captains, he doesn't care. He's setting fields himself. Like Rohit Sharma is not even in the picture. He's like, Ashwin bhai thoda udhar. Chaddu bhai idhar. Then he's like, ये घुमा रहा है, ये out हो जाएगा, ये out हो जाएगा, इसको पता नहीं कितना turn हो रहा है. He's non-stop. It is crazy.
He
And everyone-
trolled Ajinkya Rahane apparently, right?
He told Ajinkya Rahane.
So
yeah.
the specific, I was just looking it up. He trolled Ajinkya Rahane watching while Warwickon was batting. He had already faced 17 balls at that stage. And I was watching at that time. He says to Rahane, he turns to Rahane and says, आपसे ज्यादा बल्ले खेल रहा है अज्जू भाई.
Whoa.
Full troll mode.
This shade coming
Vice
from
captain.
dude who took 21 balls to get off the mark and like the innings was brought to an end then.
Vice
But
But I
captain
can
के साथ
see,
लड़का.
but being if I'm Ishan Kishan, I'm okay with that because I'm saying I'm getting one chance to bat in this. I'm going to just delay this torture for as long as possible. Mauka mila hai mere ko. I'll just put Gaji for as long as possible, right? That's okay. So, guys, that was the Dominica test. I don't think we need to preview the next test and all that. So whatever will happen.
Do you think they'll change people up? Do
Can-
you think
No,
there are
can
people...
we simulate that test? Can we just simulate that test and move on with our lives? Because what is this nonsense? Like
This next one, is, by the way, is interesting. It's Port of Spain. So I hope they at least prepare a pitch that is fast and bouncy and not like
This
this
is-
one, pop-up dust.
This is when artificial intelligence has to show real world application. Let's just
At least
simulate
put
the next
artificial
match
turf,
and
man.
Yeah.
let's move
It's
on,
fun.
please.
And-
No,
And they've completely like numbed out. I mean, whatever they have, Kimar Roach, Alzari Joseph are decent bowlers. They are quick, and they have given them a pitch which is dead. It's like they turned up a Chepauk
Yeah.
pitch for Alzari Joseph.
This
and
was
Kimar
Port
Roach.
of Spin, not Port of Spain.
No, see, they wanted to have Ashes test here. So this is Ashes test has happened here. Yeah. that's basically
Well played. That's a good segue into Ashes. So first, we'll let Tony have his rant for a little while, and then we'll talk about the next Ashes test. Go for it, Tony.
My
What is
rant
there to
is
rant
not,
about?
My rant
Why
is
are you
not,
ranting? There has been
what
no
you're
game this
thinking
week.
it is about. Yeah, I know exactly, which is why I said it's not about what you think it's
He's done right up.
It
He's
is.
looking at the screen. Watch it.
It is basically something very different. Cuties, I want to call attention to some very non-cute things that have been going on. A matter of grave concern. our friend Nitin Sundar, the physical avatar of Stats Guru, is finally losing his memory. I don't know if you guys heard on Bits and Pieces last week and on Heads and Tails. The same Nitin Sundar who used to be called up by Sampit Pal whenever there is a power cut at Cricinfo to ask, Macha, how many balls did Sanjay Bangar leave outside the off stump in his test career? Or what was the headline when Sujit Somasundar was bowled by Shoaib Akhtar in the Chennai test? Cannot remember cricket from the last decade anymore. But don't take my word for it here. Take a listen at what he actually said. Okay, if I can share my screen. Hold on.
Here we go.
In my living memory, at
Yep.
least, 2005 is the only Ashes I remember. I mean, I remember the others, but not really fondly or anything, right? They've largely been very drab affairs, right? The reality is that we barely remember the last Ashes that happened in England. I absolutely don't remember the last one that happened in Australia. The Ashes have been a bore fest for a while now. That we barely remember the last Ashes that happened in England. I barely remember the last Ashes that happened in England.
Guys, come on. What is going on? How can you not remember the 2019 Ashes? Does the same Ashes when Smith and Warner returned from the sandpaper ban, where Steve Smith walked into the first match, took Australia from 120 for 8 to 284 before removing the grip of his bat and kneeling down onto the pitch to inscribe "Daddy's home." But Nitin Sundar can't remember this because Baseball says it was not exciting, and Baseball is an honorable man. The same Ashes where Jofra Archer was breathing so much fire that he was disallowed from entering into Lords because they didn't have a designated entry for Dragons, hit the returning daddy on his neck to leave him out of action for 3 innings and gave England a chance to dance. But Nitin Sundar can't remember this because Baseball says it was not exciting, and Baseball is an honorable man. The Ashes where we witnessed for the first time Marnus Labuschagne in all his awkward glory. Not the milk toast get rolled by Stuart Broad at short leg Marnus of this Ashes, but the toasty sandwich in pocket, collar up, clone of Steve Smith, who smashed it to all parts. But Nitin Sundar can't remember this because Baseball says it was not exciting, and Baseball is an honorable man.
Honorable man.
The same Ashes where England were staring down the barrel after being bundled out cheaply in the third test, as Tim Payne cried, "Made in heaven, 67" at the innings break, only to be denied a win by the heroics of Ben Stokes and the glass cleaning by Jack Leach. But Nitin Sundar can't remember this because Baseball says it was not exciting, and Baseball
is an honorable man.
An Ashes where Justin Langer, who believes theories in the dressing room is the domain of only one man, not even an oligopoly, took his team to Gallipoli to be inspired, earned the nickname Bin Laden by his players, went on to kick a bin laden with litter, and then sheepishly stuffed everything back in together, making a whole effing series on Amazon Prime. But Nitin Sundar can't remember this because Baseball says it was not exciting, and Baseball is an honorable man. A series that was actually close and ended 2-2 is not memorable. But then what do I know? I thought India got independence in 1947 when it actually started only in 2014. Let's take a minute to celebrate the recency bias ball and also pray for our dear friend Nitin Sundar.
So conclusion is that it's not baseball but bias ball.
Bias ball, yeah.
Recency bias. To be more
End
specific.
End
Well played.
Wow.
Well, what's more? I mean, you talked about misty glasses of Lyon and Leach and Stokes and so on. Well, Lyon missed that stumping.
Yeah.
And you can never forget that. The thing in test that I will never, the test series that I'll never forget is Lyon saying Langer wanted the entire team to watch that last day's play again. And you say, I can't do that. I can't bring myself to do that. He forced the entire team to watch that entire last day's play.
Yeah.
And it was
Not only
I'm
did
sure,
Lyon
for
miss that
everyone.
run out, I think just when they need 2 runs, they got Ben Stokes LBW. The
Yes.
umpire
But they
didn't
ran
give it,
out of
they were out of
reviews.
reviews.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they burned a silly review. Well, Tim Payne.
And
Mitchell
burnt
starts,
the
I think, going
and
down
Steve
the leg.
Smith came back in the next match and scored a double 100.
Yeah.
So they can't remember any of this. No.
Sorry. I'm just a quick distraction on the Langer take. I'm feeling for KL Rahul, who will be at Lucknow Super Giants next year. Gautam Gambhir and Langer on either side.
Yeah.
He's like, watch
Oh.
this again.
You have to tell us the news first, Bisi.
Oh, the news is that Andy Flower is on his way out as coach advisor. I don't know what he does. He was batting consultant for Australia during WTC. So he's no longer going to be with the Lucknow Super Giants in the next season and is being replaced by Justin Langer. And there is no news around Gautam Gambhir. He continues to be mentor, I suppose. Mentor and instigator in chief so that he can fight on the field.
Yeah, but the only good
Which
part
do you think
about
will be more toxic, Langer plus Gambhir or Ricky Ponting plus Ganguly?
Langer plus Gambhir. Like, it's
I
such
think
a set
that's
template.
quite yeah.
Yeah.
And
I think Ganguly doesn't
Gambhir-
do anything. Ganguly is like he's given up on life after being Jesha's friend.
Yeah.
So he's just there collecting his checks and he's moving around. And I don't think
I
he'll
think
be much
it may not be a bad idea, whichever team that you're talking about. You get Langer and Gambhir to fight.
Yeah. And Gambhir will get kicked a lot also because poor Langer has habit of kicking the dustbin regularly. So it's going to be pretty horrible for poor Gambhir.
Oh, well, there you go.
Okay, sorry. Let's come back to Nitin Sundar's recency.
Yeah,
No, that
that's
was all good. That was that even the IPL detour was good. So I learned something about that. So Langer is now going to coach Lucknow
Super Giants.
Giants.
Lucknow
And-
Super Kings, it seems.
You
Possible,
overplay this.
possible.
I don't know IPL card.
Really, I
Correct. No. That happy day has not come yet when CSK takes over all franchises. For now, I think it is what? Texas Super Kings something.
Texas Super Kings. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I thought that all the names in IPL teams have to have some sort of a royal bias or a colonial bias to the naming and all that. So that's why I thought it was Lucknow Super Kings. And
Correct.
Did we have a Pune
colonial
or something like that?
Macha, there is Chennai Super Kings. That's what you're
I know.
confusing.
But did we have Pune something Kings as well?
Rising Pune
Rising
Super
Pune.
Giants.
Super Giants.
Yeah.
Warriors, no?
Warriors.
There were Pune
Rising-
Warriors and then there was Rising
right,
Pune
Rising
Super
Pune
Giants.
Super
They
Giants.
rose later
Correct.
Super
Anyway.
Giants. Yeah.
And speaking of colonial animals, we also had Kochi Tuskers. Never forget. For one season.
By the way, for anyone watching on YouTube, I want to clarify that this person on the left is not Nitin Sundar. He's actually Mohan K. He's just using Nitin Sundar's Zoom account. So this is not the same memory loss that we're talking about. But
There
I
you go.
have a question for you. Do you know about cricket in the Asian Games?
Yes, I do. And the team that India is-
What format is it?
I think it's a T20 format.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I think so.
What about the Asia Cup?
Hey, what quiz is this? Raj?
I know the
It is
answer.
an
I
RD
know the
Asia Cup
answer.
is 50.
I-
Asia Cup is 50 overs. But I think
Ah.
Asian Games is 20, T20.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
That I know that. But the team that has been selected for the Asian Games.
Who's the captain? Tell us.
Ruturaj.
Yes.
Yes.
But he's the number 2 player that I keep, pimping for. But definitely very, very happy with that team. It's good to see. I think, there's a set of standbys in that team that will quite easily get into this current West Indian team. Standbys in that team. Let me just read it out.
Yeah.
I just saw that today. But anyway, keep talking. The set of standbys in that team will get into the West Indies team easy. That's how bad this West Indies team is. Yeah. Good team. We'll link it in the show notes. Just to
Murali,
confirm
Vaishnavi,
what the team
did you
was.
see the Asian Games team?
I did. I saw the men's and the women's. I think the men's is far less shocking. I mean, it's a reasonable squad. And also, I think the assumption now basis that would be that none of these guys are going to play the 50 over World Cup they are the B team essentially, right? I mean, well, it seems like a fairly decent B team in my opinion. I mean, if you talk about bench strength, this is a good, I think, example of the men's bench strength. Definitely, I think it's a fairly reasonable team.
Yeah, the only time that I'm happy that Sanju Samson has not been selected
Not
to a
made
side
it,
is
yes.
this.
But as I said in the group, Tony, Sanju Samson is nicely wedged between the national team and this team. He's nowhere, basically.
Yeah, correct. His perennial drinks carrier, basically.
But
Right,
I was just looking at the standby list of players, right? Yash Thakur, Sai Kishore, Venkatesh Iyer, Deepak Huda, and Sai Sudarshan. Sai Sudarshan will walk into this West Indies team. It's that bad. From a batting perspective, this team is so bad.
But is Sai Baba watching for West Indies? To hope of Prithvi
And-
Shaw is not even in this A team, no, or B team, whatever C team.
This is a B team. This is not an in India A team. This is something lesser than that, I think.
Well,
Some
let's
poor
let's
professors
think
now.
about that from a T20 perspective. I would think that this is the A team
Yeah.
from a
Yeah.
T20
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah.
But
Let's look at the
are you
players.
using A team as in the phrase the best team, or like A team as in the
Second best
second
team.
India A.
best?
India A, right? So we have Ruturaj, Yashasvi Jaiswal, Rahul Tripathi, Tilak Verma, Rinku Singh, Jitesh, Washington Sundar, Shahbaz Ahmed, Bishnoi, Avesh Khan, Arshdeep Singh, Mukesh Kumar. This is a good team
This is a good team.
from a A team perspective, right? It's actually quite a good team. I think they've done reasonably well with that. So yeah, nicely done.
I'm quite happy.
But I
for
think
Sorry, no, I was just quite happy for a few people getting a go. I think the likes of course, Mohan, you may not know these names like Shivam Mavi and Rinku Singh. They come from this tournament called the IPL, but
They play Ranji also, okay.
Yeah, so I think that there are some good things coming out of these people getting a chance to whatever don the Indian blues or something like that. Nevertheless, I still feel quite sad for some people who it feels like I don't know if I'm describing it correctly. It feels like there may be people who would have been a little sad to have been part of this, because it might have been the ticket to say you're never going to play for us. So we're giving you this one chance that you can be in the India Blues, because I don't think you're ever going to be picked for the national team. And the likes of Arshdeep Singhs and Ravi Bishnoi is getting here means I don't know if they're ever going to come back to the Indian national squad. That part quite saddens me.
I was thinking this seems like a reasonable T20 squad and a more reasonable format specific squad, which India hasn't historically been great at, no, with our standard thing with Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli and, all of these longer format fellows. I mean, no disrespect to them. I think they're fantastic cricketers, but I just don't think they should be playing T20 internationals at the very least anymore. And I think Arshdeep also, as of now, at least seems a little bit like a T20 guy, which means essentially he's out of the running for the 50-over World Cup, which I think is a reasonable call to make at this point of time. So I think this is, I like the squad. I like these guys seem like the kind of probably India's best bet at this particular format, right? I mean, we've seen them at least in the IPL be fairly reasonable in this format. I mean, if you look at, Jitesh, Rinku, Rahul Tripathi especially, I mean, I like the squad very much for this particular format. Only independently, I'm not looking at it in, conjunction with other formats or other teams and all of that, which also makes me think, given that it appears that both Kohli and Rohit have been sort of left out of the T20 system, whether some of those guys missing from this list would actually find themselves in the next T20 scene. I mean, they're going to get a run in the West Indies right now, right, under the great Hardik Pandya. I'm thinking, I mean, we do hail him like he is the greatest all-rounder to have ever existed, when the man is huffing and puffing after bowling 3 overs. and doing what in the gym beyond shirtless selfies, I'm not sure, but...
Shots fired.
The plan is to get everyone caught in the thirst trap. So that is India's bowling plan.
Going well, no?
Going well indeed. Well,
I just want to call out one very glaring omission from all of these B squads that India used to send to tournaments which used to overlap with other more serious ones, and that is Shikhar Dhawan, our highest scoring debutant in test matches, which he almost got overshadowed by during SSV. I mean, he kept coming up in every graphic during this match, but I think it's the end of the road for Shikhar Dhawan. We may not see him in Indian colors anytime soon.
I think
Have
there
you
was an age
considered-
cutoff for this. I think there was
Is there?
definitely an age cutoff for this. I'm not sure because Shikhar Dhawan is that one guy who's like, hey, we don't have enough people. Are you available? Sure, sir. I'll pack my bags right away. He was that guy. He was always there to take us to all those useless series. Felt quite sad that he couldn't play this.
And I think he has does he have an Australian passport by any chance? So he doesn't need visa in most countries that he has to go. No Indian related problems.
Murali, talking of age cutoff, right? I saw a quite shocking article on Cricinfo this week. It's a headline during the week that says Returning Afridi is dreaming about his 100th wicket. And I said, that guy's coming back.
Very close second, Shikhar Dhawan. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Never
it,
retired. Sorry.
it was actually Shaheen, not Shaheen.
Vaishnavi, you were going to say something. So sorry, I cut you.
Yeah, no problem. For all you know, Shikhar Dhawan is part of the standby list for the 50-over World Cup. Given in India, Rahul is injured every second month. You never know. Entirely
Very
possible.
possible. Yeah.
But he's not gone to the West Indies though, right?
No.
Question that I have is this current team for the Asian Games, has it been selected by Ajit Agarkar and company or the previous?
That's a tough question. A very tough question to answer.
Yeah.
I think there is a special Asian Games selection panel who selected separately. This panel selects these people
it's all MS Dhoni. Like basically.
I was waiting for that to come. I still can't understand the standby list because there's one name that I keep seeing very ironic that is everywhere. How does what does this Deepak Hooda have? What videos has he taken? Who has he have ransom in his house, in his basement? This guy keeps creeping up everywhere. I've never seen him perform. I don't think there's anything of note, and yet he always finds a way in this India team.
Well, they think his name is Deepak Hoodinida.
Hoodie. Yeah. Nice.
Shortened to Hooda.
All right, there we go.
Hey, but what does anyone know when the Asia Cup is happening? Is India going to
One second. Before Asia Cup, when is World Cup tickets going on sale?
that schedule has been announced. Now it doesn't matter.
Now it doesn't matter. Go stand in queue from today only. Very good. Okay.
Yeah, correct. And the World Cup is traveling through schools. My daughter actually got to see the World Cup and he's like, why are you so excited about this? It looks like one round ball. For this, you're putting so much scene. But also it was nice to see the World Cup going to some school. I would think it is in Kerala where all the kids dressed up with Sanju Samson masks. Oh, you didn't see this photo?
Oh, you sponsored it. No, it's okay.
It's
okay. Nicely sponsored.
You zoom in the bottom corner of the mask.
Maybe Sanju.
Yeah, but Asia Cup, is it happening, guys? Like, please.
Who knows?
Nobody knows.
Okay.
Sorry, none.
Let's move on. We have plenty of things to talk about. I actually want to talk about we'll come to the Ashes preview in a minute, but the Bangladesh versus India women game. For those who are not watching us on Zoom, Vaishnavi did a double face palm immediately. Go take it away. There's some crazy shit happening. Go on.
If it was possible for another cricket match to outperform the India versus West Indies test match going on right now, it was this series. The Indian men and the Indian women have just absolutely killed any interest in any form of the game one might have. I don't know what the pitches in Bangladesh are doing, and this will lead me to my next rant about how the quality of pitches in the women's game in general. But when you look at this particular series, not once has anyone scored above 120. So bear in mind, they have not even gone at a run the ball. And this is a T20 series we're talking about. God-awful pitches. Absolutely making no runs. And I think this is where the rant comes in about, it's not going to help the women's game if you're going to create what is essentially one cotton mattress and ask them to play on it, because then it doesn't help the game, right? It doesn't help viewers. It just further feeds into the entire assumption that women cannot play cricket, or the women's game is simply not worth, paying attention to. And when you contrast that to what the ECB is doing with these massive venues and the marketing that's going into that team, and that series is absolutely phenomenal. I know I came on this pod and I said 16-0, and I'm going to congratulate myself for that reverse jinx as an England supporter. But that's a phenomenal series, and you just see these two series happening across the globe, and what some amount of publicity and what good venues could do for a series is crazy. This Bangladesh, the production quality is god awful. The commentary is unbelievable. I think the bails don't light up on the stumps. That's where we are at. And all 6 matches are happening in the same stadium. I mean, just
On the same pitch.
oh, oh boy.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. Let's hope not.
Vaishnavi, we know where you're going with this. You're basically saying actually cricket should happen only with England, Australia, and India women. Right? That's
Absolutely not. But I think a lot of people complained. I complained during the emerging women's Asia Cup also, right? Wherein the pitches were played on the matches were played on these really slow, sluggish surfaces, and spinners had. I think Shriyanka Patil had some ridiculous return after 2 matches. I think she took 9 wickets or 7 wickets for maybe a dozen runs, right? And I mean, when all your spinners have such returns and none of your batters are beyond, let's say, 100 or 110 strike rate, it's just not ideal for the game, because presumably T20 is looked at as the format that can grow the game, right? But if you're scoring at sub 6, it's not doing what you intended it to do at all. I can't imagine a newcomer coming and watching the emerging Asia Cup or this India-Bangladesh series and feeling remotely invested in this game at all.
Yeah. No, but there is news around this exclusive league or something like that. Right? What is that about?
Yes. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's some news, there are whispers of this, that I think the BCCI, essentially the big three, right, are trying to come up with the women's version of the Champions League. Champions League, sorry. Yeah. Which I, at that particular time, really enjoyed. I loved the concept of like the cream of the cream. But in hindsight now, I think, at least where the women's game is currently, it might lead to a lot of, essentially increase the gap between the big three and the rest of the women's teams, which are, as is, getting a lot of step-sisterly treatment in general, right? I can't imagine it's a good thing. We're going to see the same franchise regulars. You know, everyone's going to fight over Madison Cap. Everyone's going to fight over Elise Perry. And no one is going to bother with cricketers from New Zealand or Pakistan or Sri Lanka. And yeah, I mean, it's essentially... Or
Pakistan won't be part of it. Pakistan not allowed. Wherever India is there. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're right. I believe they've not issued invitations to the other countries, right, including New Zealand Super Smash and this women's CPL, presumably. Afghanistan doesn't even have a women's team, so that point is an entirely different point now. But yeah, this is my rant. This is I think it'll make for fabulous and fantastic cricket, but I don't think it'll help the cause of growing the women's
Vaishnavi,
game.
you talked about the stadium, the grounds on which some of these matches are being played, and the current ground on which the Bangladesh-India games are being played. I didn't realize that all games are being played in the same one. It's a contrast. In the same week, we had Australia announce that the BBL this year will be played at arena grounds. So MCG, SCG, and so on will get BBL games as well.
Right.
And this is the contrast is just quite astounding, really.
It is, and the fact that the women's Ashes have taken place at 3 test venues, right? And they've all been sold out. Now, granted, their grounds aren't as big as the grounds in India, but if you're still able to sell out an entire series, it says something is being done right. And I'm obviously not a fan of the ECB, but it does seem like they've taken a lot of effort to make this series, one of the series that will perhaps stay in public memory for a very, very long time.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? It's not about the money all the time. Yep. And it's much more than the just the money. It's about the longevity of the game. Unless you take care of that very, very cautiously, you're just going to destroy everything. And yeah, well, my fear is that is going to happen. Talking about the Ashes, what's happening there?
I just want to add a point here before we go. Do you think this has something to do with the fact that they have a men's tournament going on at the same time, and they probably must have taken the bulk of the grounds because they feel like, of course, put back, more people or get more money, because I think they have a full tour, right? Afghanistan. Is that Afghanistan's in Bangladesh or Afghanistan, right? Yeah, they're in Bangladesh right now playing.
Yeah.
Playing. Yeah, playing some T20s or something like that, or a full tour. So I was that's what I was thinking when you talked about them probably playing in the same ground throughout. The quality of the game in terms of the pitch, in terms of the ground, in terms of the commentary, that is quite appalling. But I think they clearly positioned both of these men's and women's games at the same time because they could give the women whatever grounds were left after the men took all the good ones, I think. And then whatever Tamim allowed them to play on or something like that. I don't know.
I think one of the news which sort of slipped by under the radar was equal prize money for the men's and women's events under the ICC. Nicely they tried to hype that up so that they can slip the BCCI news under the radar, right? So, I mean, that's development, long overdue, obviously. Some people on even the Twitter world erupted in flames, saying that is not right for reasons which I obviously can't understand. But yeah, it's long overdue. Maybe it helps attract more eyeballs. Maybe it helps attract more talent into the women's games, which is very much welcome.
Speaking of which,
You're dreaming like Dream 11. And
You're
talk
sure
about
you-
Dream 11, by the way.
Nice segue.
That
You're
Dream
sure you
11
don't have
jersey.
Oh, but is it the one you're wearing, Tony? Is that
No,
one
no,
you-
no. I have.
This was not
nice
spat on.
India angle.
Oh.
Yeah.
The one that Tony bought, I think everyone should buy that before it just sells out, or maybe it's sold out already. But the current one with Dream 11 and all sorts of other things written all over the place, just ugly.
Spat on. I think spat on is perfect. Yeah. That's all it is.
Yeah. Because if they secretly wanted to promote Pan Parag, they could have just put Pan Parag there. What is the point of using Pan Parag colors to promote Dream 11? It's like, oh, you see this, you will dream of Pan Parag. Oh, I don't want to, man. Nobody dreams of Pan Parag. Except some very
Surrogate
few-
advertising.
Yeah.
This is subliminal advertising.
Subliminal advertising.
I don't want
Pan
this
Parag.
garbage placebo, man. I don't want this. Like, I just leave the whites alone. See, I like the stripes. I think that was kind of cool. But this, I didn't see it coming. Like, now this is
But-
WTC just, yeah.
Do you
But
remember
in
that
case-
hoarding which in which someone has a screenshot of paint in which they've written, "We need graphic designer." This is basically a cry for help from the people running cricket to say, we don't understand colors. Like,
But for those who are up in arms against this particular jersey, don't buy this one. Buy the domestic. It's similar with the black stripes, and it doesn't have any spitting marks on it. You can still go.
yeah.
for it.
What do you mean domestic?
Domestic.
Ranji.
The
Playing in the Ranji and all that.
Ranji and Dilip Trophy has a similar jersey, but it's black. The stripes are black.
I like the blue one. I like the blue stripes without the spit.
Tough
That
luck.
one is actually pretty cool. And
it's
it's
been
very
spat on.
sad because they put a comparison photo and everybody got reminded of this guy called Hanuma Vihari who was wearing this jersey. And it's like, I was in the reckoning, I got blows and all abroad, and then now you completely left me out of the picture. Ishan Kishan is playing 20 balls until we could declare what is happening. I thought I was back to form. Quite sad. But the jersey looks quite good, honestly. Bisi is right, that domestic one.
Very good.
There is
Moving on.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I talked about the women's Ashes as well, and then we'll preview the Ashes as well before we slowly wind down this episode. So Vaishnavi, are you following the women's Ashes at all?
I
16 zip.
Sridhar?
yeah, that I like to say that I reverse jinxed them because I'm a big supporter of this particular England team. The women. Let me clarify.
Oh,
So
is
I
that
have
right? So you're not a fan of the ECB, but you like this particular England team. Is that what you're saying?
I like the women. I don't like the men.
No.
Yeah, right. So I like the women. I like. It's a
Nobody
little
likes
bit of
the men. Nobody likes the men's team.
That is true.
Currently.
That is true. That is
Except
true.
the
They are
men who absolutely love themselves and think they are upholding some of the greatest things in world cricket. Yeah, nobody else does.
Yeah.
Wasn't there someone on this pod who said that they're now a fan of Stuart Broad? I don't recall
Yeah,
who it was.
that's me. That's me. Equally hypocritical, but that's me. I mean, that was just for the few moments of joy that he brings about when he gets Warner out. It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
That is different. Saying you're a fan of Stuart Broad bowling to Warner is different to saying I'm a fan of Stuart Broad.
No, of course. No, I do not endorse. I got unfriended by Choppy when I said this. Like, you cannot be friends with me. So I had to issue clarification saying Stuart Broad making a Mickey out of Warner every time he bowls to him. It's a lot of fun. It's good.
Totally agree.
Yeah, agreed.
So yeah, Women's Ashes. I think Australia started it really well, but it looks like England have closed the gap on the Ashes quite a bit, including winning a very close match a couple of days back.
Correct. So I think when Australia got that big lead from the Test match, right, when they got 4 points, and now 4 points, and now they're both tied at 6-6, which essentially means Australia need to win both matches to win the Ashes, but they will retain it if they win one more. Yeah, because they hold the previous Ashes, right? Which is, I think, a concept that I fail to understand, the concept of retaining the Ashes, given it's a multi-format series and there's a lot going on. And the fact that in both the men's and the women's, you essentially give a head start to the team that has the Ashes, right? They have an advantage, or even the BGT, right? I mean, you give a head start to the team holding it. So but it's been, I think, an incredible series and testament to the fact that if you allow women to play at good venues, they will put up good quality cricket. And we are seeing amazing venues with, in my opinion, the two best teams in the world. And imperfect teams. I think we've seen that now very clearly. Australia is an imperfect team. Whether it's landing juju or it is simply the fact that no one, I think, held their nerve enough to expose their flaws on such a consistent basis. But we've seen that it is a flawed team. England have somehow miraculously gone from being absolute chokers to being nearly chokers and holding the nerve. And I think it's been just a fantastic series, enjoyable. I mean, so good that I haven't watched Ashwin bowl in his first innings because I was completely distracted by the ODI. We've had some high-level cricket. How about you all? Have you all been watching?
I've not been watching, but I've been following the games closely and reports and stuff like that. And so just to clarify something that you said earlier, women's series, and this question was posed in the group as well. So I think it's time to clarify exactly how points are scored. So there is 4 points for a Test win, 2 points for an ODI, and 1 point for a T20.
2 points.
Two points for a T20.
Yeah, okay. It's red ball and white ball.
Okay, so 4 and 2 for the other games. So, but the series, you just accumulate points. It's not as if you have a Test series or a one-day series or a T20 series. It's just one series, which is a composite of everything.
Yes.
Yes and no. Yes and no, because they did award them medals for the Test. England did win the T20 series, but then it is a composite Ashes.
Yeah,
I think it works like school marks, midterm, separate, whatever, but then all ends up to the end term, pretty much.
And it's normalized, basically.
Correct. So
everyone feels happy.
Yeah, and which is where we get the whole concept that Australia has not lost a series since 2017, because they lost this one to England, the T20 series.
T20 series.
And that essentially is and it's because there aren't too many games and there aren't too many resources that they can play a 5-test series or a 3-test series or a three. I mean, you can, but for some reason the women's game, they don't do that. It's money.
It's money.
Yeah. Plus, I think this is the Test match where they had a 5-day. They assigned 5 days after a long time. Yeah, so after the very
finally got a result. Got a result.
Correct.
I think this is a good sort of, I don't know, I'm not as knowledgeable about women's cricket, but I think this format, the whatever cumulative board exam format that you mentioned, is quite interesting because it keeps people like us sort of watching to see how competitive it's going to be, right? And remember, you weren't so wrong in saying 16-0 because 95% of the people would have guessed 16-0, right? That's the kind of team that Australia was bringing to the shore. They haven't had any massive injury. They brought a full strength squad, and they have given both the kinds of pitches and the the kind of games in the multi-format that allowed England to compete. If there were 3 tests, I would have a strong idea that Australia would have probably won all 3. And if there were probably only ODIs as well, I think Australia are a really good team. But in this, we can see that England were able to compete in the T20, and having them in the middle and not at the end meant that this is coming to a nice sort of a cliffhanger, and I quite like it. I think that's the part I like, and I think this is going to set itself up. There were only 4-day tests; it's become 5. Now this is so entertaining. Maybe they'll have 2 5-day tests in the next Ashes. Going forward, maybe there could be a proper 3-test Ashes series between women, where all of the grounds could be packed. I don't think it's a dream. I think it's definitely possible, right? I don't know. I'm very open to your disagreement.
No, I agree with you entirely. I think, they've had this multi-format series concept in England for quite some time now. And they've always played multi-format series in the recent past. I think I do disagree a little bit that this format is the way it's structured has helped England because it hasn't helped them in the past. I remember they played a very tight test the last series in Australia, and for some reason they absolutely combusted after the tight test. Here they seem to have somehow the testers seem to galvanize them into a different unit that uses brains. But I think for all the people who believe in captaincy juju, I think Healy's going to cop a lot of hate because I think she's nowhere near. I don't think that's a high standard, right? Nowhere near. No one is as astute a captain as Meg Lanning is, simply put. But I think Healy has made some glaring captaincy errors, especially using the way she uses her resources, right? I mean, they use 9 bowlers on the regular, but I think the way she used them has been suspect in some cases regarding matchups and, when you want to use your star bowlers. Like you take the last ODI, for example, right? Your Darcy Brown has always been a high variance bowler, right? I mean, she's fast, yes, but also she travels fast in Ollie Pope's language. So, I think they completely sort of lost that match when England were 70 or 80 for 1 wicket in 10 overs. And I think their spinners are amazing. Ash Gardner is an incredible spinner, as is Jonathan, Wareham, King, all of them, right? But I think too much had already happened in the first 10 overs for them to be able to realistically pull it back.
But yeah. That said, Vaishnavi, I mean, there was a view, there was a sense that this Australian team is invincible and all conquering and so on. So it's good in a way that they've been brought down a peg, and other teams know what they need to do in order. I mean, if they follow the England template, I think they will try and give a good run, in future games. India, I hope India has been watching these games very closely to learn what England did so that they can replicate it in their games.
Yeah, I think India has also shown in past that you can really put Australia under the pump. But I think the difference between both India and England is simply that I think India has a much longer tail. So if you're in a pressure situation when you tend to be, especially when you're chasing, right? There's not a lot to fall back on. It's Harman and then it sort of ends. Whereas to be fair,
I get that.
They have
so
a
the reliance
very long.
then. Yeah. Okay.
They have a very competent batting lineup, I think, in England. I mean, they essentially have just a number 11, and then they all have bowlers who can bat, right? I mean, I think that's true of the men too. They don't have too many tail enders in the white ball setup. I mean, you have Adil Rashid who has what? 10?
Yeah, true.
We've heard that a million times.
Their one-day team is pretty strong. And we must do a World Cup preview pretty soon, one of these days.
Yeah.
But their one-day team is damn good. Hate to say it, but looks like favorites. All right, guys. Anything else to talk about? Have we done Tamim to death?
Tamim to death. Are you discussing MLC? Have you seen anything? Do you even care about it?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, if you've been watching it, just go for it. I mean, I did follow that. By the way, that's not going to be known as the MLC anymore. It's already known as the Royal Basmati Major League. Please get that right. It's the Royal Basmati Major League Championship. But in future years, is going to be known as the Royal Basmati World Championship. Okay.
It will become World Championship.
Everything in the USA is World Championship. So have you been watching any of the MLC?
I just have one news. I have one news from the MLC which I wanted to really pick on and that is concerning Sunil Narayan, the cricketer that I want to be. He was supposed to be in the MLC game on Thursday, fly for the Vitality Blasts on Friday, and then come back again for the MLC game. And he chose not to do that. So
Wow.
that's the kind of cricketer life that I would want. But I get to say no to the Vitality Blast. So but I think it points to a larger future. I think Kieran Pollard gave an interview to Cricinfo where he said that this is what he had predicted a long time ago, and he's glad that he's the front runner in terms of saying no to national duty and bondage to the national boards, and instead just look out for yourself as an individual, trade your wares wherever the highest bidders are there. And that's pretty much the template that the likes of Sunil Narayan and others will follow. Andre Russell will take up. And it is a point of concern for the likes of the ECB and others right now as well, because it's a huge bonus.
I suspect the people, the teams with big resources, depth of resources like India and England and so on will have less to worry about. It is countries like Afghanistan and West Indies. West Indies will splinter if this continues on. Right? They'll just not exist. And if they continue to play like they did in Dominica, that'll hasten the departure.
But you really can't fault the way West Indies play, because they hardly have a structure to support a test team. Their domestic system hardly supports a longer format of the game, right? Ambrose was ranting on air saying that you're asking me questions about Bairstow getting stumped and all that. I am from an era where we would turn up at the drop of a hat to play a 5-day game, and that just doesn't happen anymore, right? In the West Indies, at least. So for them, for you to expect them to be competitive at this level is not going to be practical. It's just not there. So anyone who's turning up even right now for West Indies national duties in whites is doing CSR, plain and simple. And is doing it out of love for the game, or because they can't get a contract in MLC or Royal Basmati or Cycle Agarpati or whatever it is. So I think that's the reality that is there in front of us as future players from that region. At least they always feared that players from the West Indies will be drawn towards Major League Basketball. I mean, in the NBA or the Major League Baseball leagues, because that's closer home for them, and it's a lot more attractive for them. But even if that didn't happen, now for sure, cricket itself is taking them away from the test scene.
Bisi, one person that bucked the trend that you're talking about is Alik Athanaze. At the end of day one, he was interviewed by Bish and Ronak Kapoor, and I'm not sure if Kirtley was also there. Darren Ganga was there, I think, and they were talking to him about Test cricket and one-day cricket. He made the mistake of saying he doesn't rate white ball cricket at all. So there you go.
Good for him.
He actually came out and said something like that. I was saying, oh my God, there goes your IPL contract.
No, good for him. I mean, all power to him, but he's in minority. That's the part.
Possibly. Well, you have so many people like Kieran Pollard and Sunil Narayan who are concording from here and there. So and playing all sorts of. But this MLC, will if nothing happens, it's going to be an exodus for some players from India, but India won't worry about it too much because they can have 5 teams and still not worry about it.
No, they did worry about it. No, Jesha nicely said, I will introduce policy preventing you from playing anywhere till you are bonded.
But you cannot prevent a player from trying to emigrate to the US.
True. We have a lawyer on the panel, so we can always get into the legalities of it. I don't know how legally tenable it is, but they will do everything in their part to bully people into being married.
The trouble also is, right, who wants to go up against the BCCI, regardless of whether you think it's a reasonable clause or restriction or not, right? And that's, no one wants to, because you piss the BCCI off, your career is over, one way or the other. And that's a sad truth.
So from a resource point of view, BCCI has a stranglehold on every resource in India. Right?
Correct.
So they will not do. So the way to do that is to take the route of someone like Unmukh Chand, right? Who says, I don't care about your central contract. I don't care about the chains you place on me and my ability to ply my trade wherever I want, like a Kieran Pollard and all that, who's challenging that system over there. And the WICB is powerless to do anything about it. But the other route is to actually get a working visa and move to the US. Once you're there, you can play for any team, and that's not no one's going to stop you doing that.
Yeah, of
And
course.
there is a good sort of transfer of power also that's happening, right? Where, for example, what Unmuktan would have been losing was to look and play against the senior most players in the world and learn from them. Now he's like literally playing with Rabadas and Faf du Plessis, and every other big player is there sitting in the league with him. He's missing nothing, and he's there comfortably in the United States. He has zero stranglehold, as Mohan put it, from the BCCI. I think it's quite good for him. He's able to play good quality cricket against good teams and still make money out of it and not be worried about, I don't know, being arrested or, being ostracized or whatever. So I think this is genuinely good for the larger good of the sport, considering the kind of millions of dollars BCCI is making year after year.
And the other thing that this will do, which is why I like it, is the spread of the game, in the US will be independent of what the ICC is unable to do. So the ICC is not able to do anything very serious over there. But this will enable. The only downside is what it will do to West Indies cricket. I see this is a major danger to West Indies cricket, but 20-30 Indian players just moving away from India to grow roots in US. Pretty good. Why not?
Yeah.
Prithvi is applying for this passport. I think is happening right now as we speak. So any moment,
well, he might do that. He might do that. His other colleagues and even juniors have overtaken him with the century by Jaiswal on debut.
Yeah.
So
on this subject, hasn't Cricket Australia prevented a couple of their players from playing in the 100 this year? Maxwell, I remember, and someone else.
One or two.
I don't remember the other name. I know there are two, and I know that Cricket Australia has pulled them out of the 100. Presumably by offering the money, which is something.
We got to be very careful about restriction of trade, right? The Players Association in Australia is pretty strong.
Correct.
And the moment Cricket Australia tries too many tricks of this sort without giving adequate reasons for, and the best way to do it is managing player workload and all that sort of stuff.
Mitch Marsh is the other player.
Mitch Marsh, is it?
Mitch Marsh.
Oh, okay. So.
And this is ostensibly to manage their workload ahead of the build-up for the 50 World.
Bisi, that's the only way you can do it, because anything else will be restriction of trade.
Yeah, makes sense.
And you can't actually go down that path, because the Players Association here will just jump in and say, you can't do that. It's their ability and their right to make money. But managing player workload, especially if you're under contract, is the only way to do it.
Sure.
Which is something that someone like the West Indies Cricket Board is going to be unable to do, because we've seen cricketers give up their contracts, right? Because it means really nothing to them.
Do absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And I think there's a problem with the WICB with respect to so they're all different nations, right? So there is really little
no national team.
There's no they have a weird anthem which nobody knows the lyrics to. So it's difficult.
There's a friend of mine, and we all, I'll mention it. I shouldn't be paraphrasing him, but why not? Musician Sanjay Subramanian, who's got two major views. One is one state, one team in India. So he hates the fact that you have Vidarbha, Maharashtra, and
Saurashtra
and all that in happening there. And the other thing is, so many countries in West Indies, one national team. These are the two main things that he keeps griping about. We should get him on the pod sometime. And he will wax eloquent on this for hours on end. Are we done?
Yep.
Yeah.
The only thing that I had was something about India A starting again. When Dravid was when I heard some news last week that India A tours are starting again. When Dravid was at the helm, India A toured very regularly, extremely regularly. I remember there were tours that were happening in South Africa, and all these young players who are playing right now have played around the world under Dravid's stewardship. And suddenly, for the last 3-4 years, nothing much has happened. But I've heard rumors that India A tours are going to start again. And if that happens, it's pretty good.
They are going to South Africa before
They are going to
the
South Africa.
before the senior
before
team.
India, the seniors go to South Africa.
South Africa.
India A is going to South Africa, and that's a start. But I thought they were going to Zimbabwe as well, or is that
I
Karnataka?
think Kenya. I think they went to Kenya. They are also scheduled to go to Kenya. I think.
Kenya.
Let's see.
Didn't India A go to South Africa before the last tour, and then Hanuma Vihari jumped? And
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
That is where Hanuma Vihari sort of made the cut.
Correct.
He
Exactly.
ended up playing in the West Indies after that. Or no, he ended up playing in South Africa.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's time to draw curtains on this episode number 80. Thank you very much. We lost Tony midway. He had to go and pick his daughter, who famously told him, why are you shouting about this World Cup? It looks like nonsense. But he had to go and pick her up from some school play or something like that. We lost Tony, but say bye, Murali, Vaishnavi, Bisi, and Nitin. Oh, Nitin's me.
Bye. Take care.
And for
Bye.
folks who have stayed with us, next week is episode 81. Promises to be a special one. So do stay tuned in for that as well.
There you go. Plug for the next episode as well. Thank you, guys. See you
Thanks all.
next week. Thanks
Bye.
for staying the distance. Like, subscribe, share, and tell your friends about us. Thank you.
Bye.